Welcome to the fastest daf in town, today Masechtas Kiddushin daf Mem. We are going to begin on Mem Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. The pasuk says in Tehillim, Gibori koyach eisei davaroi. Those who are strong in might, they will do Hashem's will. L'shmoya b'koyel davaro, to be able to listen to His words. Kagon, Rabbi Tzadik v'chaveroi. So, who falls into this category but Rav Tzadok and his counterparts of Tzadok? Tivati ahi matunisa. There was a story that there was this woman that were making advances to Rav Tzadok. He said, unfortunately, I'm just not feeling so well. My heart's hurting right now, so I can't do anything. Maybe I have something to eat. So Amalei said, Ika davar tame. Well, I do have something, but it's a davar tame, something impure, like pig. So Amalei said, my nafkimina di avid ha achalha. It must be that someone does this is going to end up eating this. So some people explain this is like a slippery slope. If a person starts doing one avera and is lax when it comes to this, then there's a good chance that he's going to end up also of violating other things as well, because as Rashi explains, why was it of all things that the food that he was offered was a davar tameh? It must be come to teach us this din. Shagras tanura, so he went into an oven, and kamanchale, so he was resting in it. Again, he went to sitting inside this oven. Sarmalei, my high, what are you doing in this oven? Armalei, the oven ha nafal baha. The person who does this is going to fall into the fire of Gehenna. So Amalei, iyadi koli hai lo siyartich. Had I known that you are so chomer and so strict that I would never have bothered you, I would never have tempted you. Rav Kahana havi kema zavin dikule. So Rav Kahana was engaged in selling these baskets. Rashi says salim she noshim noisisham pilchehen. They put their various spices and items into it. So tavati ahi martinisa. Again here, another woman was tempting the Rav Kahana. So he said to her, Ezel ikashit nafshoy. Let me go and get myself adorned. Give me a few minutes to prepare myself for you. Salik v'kanafil mi'igril ara. So he went in to fall from the roof to the ground. Asaliyahu kable, and as he jumped down, basically to kill himself because he couldn't control himself, there was no other option. So he was caught by Eliyahu. Armalei at rachtan arba mea parsei. You troubled me from having to go 400 parsangs. I wasn't anywhere near this. However, I needed to save you. Armalei mi garimli. What caused me that I end up having to be tempted by this woman? Love aniyusa. It is not because of my poverty, the fact that I have to constantly involved in being oisik and melechas noshim. Yoivle shipa didinre. So he was given a shipa. Rashi says a kli filled of golden coins. Rami le Rava Rav Nachman. So a question was posed. Tanan, on one hand, we learn El Devarim Shadam Oisa Oisan. Person does these mitzvahs of Oichel Perusein Beom Haza, and you'll be able to derive its benefits, its fruits in this world. However, the principle will remain in the world to come. El Hein Kibbut Ava Em Gils Chasadim Hava Shalom Shabein Adam Lachaver V'Sam Tarik and Gekulam. So, how do we know all these different things that you're given such reward? It says you're given a long life. If a person pursues after righteousness and kindness, when it comes to shalom among your friends, you should seek after friendship and pursue it. Remember, Rabbi, ask Radifa. We learn out Exer Shava. Ksiv hacha bake shalom radfeu. Ksiv hasam raidim tzedakah v'chesed. So already learned out when it comes to the sachar for a person who is engaged in a person who does this act of Gemilas Chasadim, so too a person who is involved in Havas Shalom. But Talmud Torah ksiv ki hu chayach v'rachamecha. Torah is ki hu chayach v'rachamecha. It's your life. It's the length of days. So this is the list. So where says 1 second. Bishaluach hakain, when it comes to sending away the mother bird, namik ksiv man yitav v'rachta yomim. So listen nami ha. So why isn't it mentioned Shalach hakain? The answer is you're right. It could, but Tana Bashir. So Tani Tana Eo Devarim Biatam Tana Bashir. It says Eo Devarim. These are the things, which is mashma. These excluding everything else. So Rav Edi Asfil, he explained to me that it says in Yeshaya, Imrut Tzadik Kitayv, say regarding the Tzadik is good. Ki Pri Malehem Yoichelu. V'chi Yesh Tzadik Toiv Yesh Tzadik Sheino Toiv. What does it mean? That Imrut Tzadik Kitoiv. The Tzadik is good. What do you mean that Tzadik is good? Every Tzadik is good. What's the Chiddush? Is there a Tzadik that's not good? El Toiv L'Shamayim L'Briyais. If he's good to the heavens and to the people, Zehut Tzadik Toiv. Toiv L'Shamayim V'rel L'Briyos. If he's not good to the people, Zehut Tzadik Sheino Toiv. So to be a Tzadik Toiv, you have to have both elements. A Tzadik Sheino Toiv, he's only a Tzadik to Hashem, but he's Eino Toiv among Briyas. Similarly, it says in Yeshaya, Oilu Rasha Ra, woe is to the wicked, evil person. Ki Gmul Yadav Yaseloi, because he'll be paid back. Yesh Rasha Ra v'yesh She'eno Ra. What do you mean a Rasha Ra? There's only a Rasha Ra. There's the definition of a Rasha is that he's bad. So what exactly does this mean? It's hard to understand. So he says, El Ra L'Shamayim V'Ra L'Brios Hu Rasha Ra. Ra L'Shamayim V'Eino Ra L'Brios Zehu Rasha She'eno Ra. So if he's bad to the heavens, so that's the difference between being a Rasha or a Tzaddik, but you're considered to be Ra if you're bad also to people, but if you're not bad to people, then you're Rasha She'eno Ra. Okay, so look at this Rashi. Eino daimel eil hanach kuhul habriyos nehenen mimenu v'nimsa toiv l'shmai v'tov habriyos v'ahu ksiv ki prim alehem yochel v'hai krok ksiv ki toiv ki prim alehem yochel b'chayv avol b'shulach hakain toiv l'shmayim hu v'ein kan toiv l'briyos. So the reason why it doesn't mention Shulach HaKain is because you're doing something nice to the Shemayim, but you're not doing anything to people. That's the reason why Shulach HaKain is not mentioned, because it's something which is more of a mitzvah bein adam l'makoyim and not as much l'chaveroi. Haschus yesh l'keren v'yesh l'peres. When it comes to schus, it has the principle and also fruits. However, a person sins, there's the keren, the principle for being paid back for the punishment of sinning. However, there's no peros attached to it. You're not going to be paid back more than the wickedness that you've done. So, how do we read the pasuk? They'll eat from the fruits of their ways. And from the wicked counsel you'll be satiated. So what do we do with that pasuk? So aver shiasa paris yeshal paris. If you have a ver which has paris, says Rashi, kigoin chil Hashem shadam choshev oiver avera. An important person does a sin, and there other people learn from him. So there's peros from his sin, because not only do you sin, but you cause others to sin. So in that case, that is where it's more significant. Yesh lo paris to shena is to paris, ein lo paris. However, if you sin, but it's not connected to anyone else, there's no peros, so then you're not going to be punished more. So you can be punished more than the sin you committed if you do it in a way like chil Hashem, and you're on the chashav that you're going to cause other people to sin. A good thought Hashem combines to an action. Because save Hashem So the pasuk says that those who are Yirei Hashem, even those who think His name. So Rav Asi, this is the drasha. A person wanted to sin, to do a mitzvah rather, and for whatever reason, beyond his control, was unable to do it. Also, it's kiyul like he actually did the mitzvah. Machshava Ra, on the other hand, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzrapel Maisa. So Hashem is much more kind. He gives peros for a mitzvah, not to an avera. He will not judge your thoughts, a Machshava Ra. Shneimar Aven Kiraisi Belibi, a sin which I see in my heart, Lo Yishma Hashem. Hashem doesn't hear it. Of course, Hashem knows what's in your heart, but it means Hashem is not going to punish you for it. It sounds like taka that there is a punishment in the machshava. So machshava sheisa pre HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzrapel Ma'isa. Machshava shein but pre in HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzrapel Ma'isa. So a similar idea is that if the machshava that you have causes other people to also sin, so then it's going to be counted as a Maisa. You see clearly that Klal Yisrael is punished for what goes on in their hearts, even when it comes to Nevera. So yeah, but that's an exception. Anyone who denies idol worship, it's like you're agreeing to the rest of the Torah. So therefore, when it comes to avodas kachavim, that is the one exception that if you think about avodah zara, that's also considered machshava as mitzrapel amaisa. That's counted as an action. But not when it comes to any other avera. Person sins and does it again. It's mutter. You can do it again, not a problem. What does that mean? Is it really mutter? Once a person sins continuously, it becomes like it's completely mutter, and it's not considered to be something that you even think about as doing anything wrong. And therefore, this is how it's explained. Ula, says Rashi, that if you sin and repeat your sin, that when you have the thought even to do it, Mr. Efes, it's already considered to be an action, they feel ovid law, even if you didn't do the action. Because since it's so in your routine, the reason why you didn't sin is just because, whatever, something happened. But you really are so ingrained in you to sin that it's considered already, even the machshava stage, like an avera already. Rabbi Avo Mishom Rabbi Chanina, he says the following. He said in the name of Rabbi Chanina, Noichel Adam Shavar Ver V'Seiser, better person should sin in private, then to desecrate Hashem's name in public. Shnemar V'atem and you b'nei Beis Yisrael koimar Hashem, so as Hashem is Gil Lulav. You people who are servers of avodah zara, of idol worship, of avoidu, you go and serve, yachar, and after, im einachem shaimim to listen to me, the Hashem kodshi lo yitzechalu, and my holy name should not be profaned. This is a very interesting Gemara. If you see that your Yetzer Hara is getting very strong, go to a place where no one sees you. Put on black clothes. Cover yourself in black. And do whatever sin you want to do. Then for you to sin in public. And in fact, the Gemara, what are you talking about? Anyone does not have mercy on Hashem, it's better that you shouldn't have been in this world. So Rab Oimer Zavastaka Bekeshes. Interesting. Someone who stares at the rainbow, because it's kind of like you're showing Hashem, I know you wanted to destroy the world, but because of this rainbow, so you're almost like laughing at Hashem that he doesn't have the control to destroy the world. Rav Yosef Omer B'Seiser. If you sin in private, we see that's a terrible thing. On this, the Gemara says, "Royal Shilabo Olam." So what do you mean? Just go do it. Do what your heart desires. So kasha hadamatzi kaifli yitzrei, v'hadalo matzi kaifli yitzrei. One's if you can control your Yetzer Hara, and one's if you cannot control your Yetzer Hara. So if you can control your Yetzer Hara, then you should. But if you can't, you can't. So in this, Taisus says, a beautiful Taisus over here, Perish Rabbeinu Chananel Chas Hashem Shehutil L'Avar Avera. Doesn't mean you can go sin. El Kachim Rabbi Lo Yigias Derachim V'Achsanais Lavisha Shchayrim Mishtaber mitzahara moinim adam min haver. What a beautiful shot. That the whole notion is, instead of you saying, don't sin, you're not allowed to sin, so you're going to end up doing it. But you say, you know what, you can sin, but don't do it right here. Go take a train and get new clothes and go over there. So by the time you get over there, your Yetzer Hara is gone already. You're not interested. So you had that Yetzer Hara right away. But if you would say, I'm not going to do it, the Yetzer Hara is too strong. So this is the idea, as some explain, when it said previously, which we talked about, that when it comes to Yafas Tayar, you can take her later on. Why? Because Malchus actually tells you, so they can take her later on, after she goes through this whole procedure, is the Torah speaks to go keneged, to fight against Yetzer Hara. If the Torah would say she's usher to you, a person's going to take her anyway, it would end up being boil with her, he'll have relations with her. However, we say it's mutter, but just wait for these proceedings, do this, and then of course it's allowed. So by the time that happens, those days go by, those times have elapsed, you're no longer going to be interested anymore. So that's the pshat. Tanan Hasam. So it's an unbelievable psychological vort. Tanan Hasam. Ein makifin b'chil Hashem. A person should not take credit with a chil Hashem. Echad sheg v'echad mezid. My ein makifin. What does that mean, taking credit? Shouldn't be like a store owner. What does that mean? Says Rashi. Hamakiv l'adam pamim rabbis v'goy v'kol hakfoisav yachad. Ein oisin kach m'lmalo u'machal Hashem el nefroi miyad. So when it comes to a store, so you can go and buy some groceries, and they keep a tab of how much money you owe, and then maybe later on you have to pay the big bill. But it's not like that when it comes to Chil Hashem. When it comes to this, the din is that you're going to get clobbered immediately. If you're 50-50, 50 mitzvahs, 50 averos, but on the avera side is Chil Hashem, it will end up weighing against you. Says Taisus, Perish Menachanano, Mishnah Masechtas Avos. Shema Hainu Hadit Nan, Kol Machal Hashem Shemayim B'Seiser. Anyone who's Machal Shabbos in private, Nifrayim Mimenu Begoli, he'll be paid back in public. Okay. Of a Lashon Makifin Kasha. Okay. All right. Question number 7. Kol Shulach Asal Kavana Kaina Yiroy Shulach Yibel Oyel Mahi. So one is someone who's mistakil bekeshes, stares at the rainbow, or ze oiver avera b'seiser umatzi kaif liyitzrei. He was able to control his Yetzer Hara, but he did not. This is exactly the same question as TA7, which says, Al mi nemar kol shel ichas al kavaydu kainu royaloi shalbo oilam. Same two things. That was TA7. Okay. Let's see if there's a question over here. Oh, this is a beautiful question. TB8. Be'elu gimel afanim amr b'mar de'ika einish af al machshava ra. So one of the 3 times that we find that a person can be punished even for a machshava ra. So this TB8. So one of the answer is when it comes to avodah zara. Hahu be'avodas kochavim hudachsiv. So when it comes to avodah zara, you're punished that way. Also, machshava shayisa peros, as we said. If you have an avera which has peros, which is actually the first answer, machshava shayisa pri hakadosh baruch hu misrapel ma'isa. So machshava shayisa pri hakadosh baruch hu misrapel ma'isa. That's actually the first answer. And the last one is Kivan she'avar adam aver b'shanaba. So in that situation, you will be punished even through a machshava. So this is what he writes. Avodah zara, machshava ishos aperis, b'shanaba v'nasis lo keheter. Okay. Vayta. Tanaban l'oilam. I'm going to focus on that word l'oilam in a moment. Always yira adam atzma kilo chetziv chai v'chetziv zaka. You should always consider yourself half 50-50. Now, what does it mean l'oilam? So I want to say the pshat is that. So what if you do one more mitzvah? So it says here, asa mitzvah achas. You do one mitzvah. Asher shemachri atzma l'kav schus. Then all of a sudden you're favor. But that's what he says, oilam. You should always feel you're 50-50. Even after you're 50-50, then you do a mitzvah, you shouldn't think, okay, now I can slack off. No, you have to continue as though it's always 50-50, even if you just did another mitzvah. The person in the Avera, one Avera, it's like you tip the scales. So like every mitzvah counts, every Avera counts, everything you do in this world will oilam always counts. One sin can cause a great destruction. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Oimer, says, the world goes after the majority, so does an individual. So as a mitzvah achas, if you do one mitzvah, not only you, but the entire world. Imagine the whole world is 50-50. So your one mitzvah can tip the scales in the favor of the whole world. One sin can cause a tremendous difficulties and problems in the world. So therefore, a person should realize the value that they have in this world, so much so that what you do matters not just to you and your future, but it will also have ramifications for the entire world. If you're a tzaddik your whole life, and you rebel at the last moment of your life, everything gets wiped away. Even the righteous tzaddik will not be saved on the day he sins. If you're Rasha Gomer and you do tshuva at the last moment of your life, you're not considered to be a Rasha. So where it says, come on, this tzaddik at least make it 50-50. Why are you punishing him like everything he does erased? So Rish Lakish, here's the scary answer: B'toya al harishainis. It's the issue is when you're toya al rishainis, namely that you're regretful for that which you did. You're regretful that you did those mitzvos. So it's like those mitzvos get canceled, and therefore it's ki'il, like you didn't do any mitzvos, and you're like a rasha. And therefore this is the pshat. Some people explain, I believe it's Rabbi Yoina, that the last makkah, the last of the nisyonos, rather, of Avram Avinu, was not a case Yitzchak. It was the burial of Sarah, because Sarah died immediately upon hearing that Avraham nearly killed Yitzchak, and then Sarah died. However, understand that. But you can understand, Avraham was elated that he was able to be Mekayim the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He passed this Nisayon, and then obviously he comes home and his wife is dead. So this is the Nisayon of not just doing the Akedah, but also not having regret that you did this mitzvah of the Akedah. That is the 10th Nisayon. That even when his wife died, because he did the Akedah, he could not feel that element of regret of having done the Akedah. Or as it says in the paragraph of Hashkevenu, V'haser Satan milfanenu me'acharenu, that it's not just enough for the Satan we should be protected from the Satan from before us, before we sin, but even after we do the mitzvahs, Hashem should also protect us from the Satan me'acharenu, from behind us, after we've already done that we were supposed to do. It says the next mission, Masnisan. Anyone who has these qualities of Torah, Mishnah, and Derech Eretz, we'll call that his work, or good midos. You're not going to sin quickly. You're not take, because just like a 3-pronged rope is very hard to break, so too you. If you're not part of learning Torah, Mishnah, or Derech Eretz, you're not considered to be part of civilization. Now, does that mean all three, or you don't do anything? Says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Elazar Rav Tzaddik, Lama Tzaddikim Neim Shalom Be'om Haza. What are tzaddikim compared to in this world? Elon, like a tree. Shekul Oimid B'makam Tahara. It's in a pure place. V'naifa Naitam B'makam Limkoin Tuma. It's leaning its branches in an impure place. Niktsas Naifo. If you cut off its branches, Kul Oimid B'makam Tahara. Everything's in the good place. Kach Chodesh Baruch. Maybe you saw it al tzaddikim Be'om Haza. Sometimes the tzaddik has bad things happen to them. A tzaddik maralo. It's kadei shir she'oyom haba. It's to be able to have a olam haba. Shnemer b'hoya reishischa mitzar, that its beginning it will be small, its head. Yachrischa yiske. However, its end will be good. Yiske ma'oid. V'lom rishayim demin bo'am haza. How about rishayim? Le'iyu and shekul oim b'makam tuma. They're all completely tuma. Or of a knife and night makam tahar. Maybe they have one tiny little redeeming quality that's like makam tahar. Niktas knife kuloi oimid makam tuma. You cut off those branches, give them a little bit of sachar for what small thing that they did. Now everything is makam tahar. Kachadish baruch hu mashpia lehem toivel rishayim. B'om haz Hashem sprinkles and gives some good to the rishayim, a rush of a toivel. Kedei l'tarden l'horishan l'madrega hatachtaina. So they should fall to the fall's depth. Shnemer yesh derech yashel lefnei ish be'achrisa darchei maves. Question 8. Ba'achota meshulish shalom heri na take ma'achota meshulish Torah Mishnah derech eretz al mi darshu chazal as a pasuk yesh derech yashel lefnei ish be'achrisa darchei maves. This is a Russia who has these basically good things happening to them. But the truth is, see what he writes. Zer Russia sheshalasay nirasly simin liyashros darko abo beemes hazmanihi laderech mavas. Okay. Weiter. Ukvar hayu Rabbi Tarfon zakenim masubin be'aliyas beis nitzabalud. They're sitting in this attic. Nishla she'ela zu bifneihem. The question was posed. Talmud gadol o ma'aseh gadol. What's greater, Talmud, learning, or actions? What is greater, Talmud or Maisa? So on this, Nana Reb Tarfon v'yomer Ma'aseh Gadol, actions are greater. Nana Rabbi Kiva v'yomer Talmud Gadol, Nana Kulam v'yomer Talmud Gadol Sha Talmud Mevlidi Maisa. Learning is great because it brings you to Maisa. Tanya Rabbi Yossi Yomer Gadol Talmud Shekadam L'chal Arbaim Shana. That Torah was given 40 years before Chal, because we already learned a couple daf ago that as soon as we entered Eretz Canaan, that's when we started having the mitzvah of Chala. That's 40 years later. And L'trumas HaMaisros Chamishim v'Arba, 54 years, because it wasn't until after Yerusha v'Yeshiva, after the fighting and the conquering and the division of the land, which took 14 years from the time that they crossed over the Jordan River with the times of Yeshua, so that ends up being 54 years. And L'shmit and Shisha v'Achas was 61 years. Well, Yavolos Me'am Shalish, 103. So maybe Shalish, maybe Arbaham, it should be 1 and 4. So Ksavar Yovel M'tchilasa Hu Mishamet. We start the calculation from the beginning. Hold off, so look at Rashi. Mitchilas Hashana, Yom Kippurim, from the beginning of Yom Kippur, Avadim Niftarim, slaves go free, the Sados Chayzois, and fields return. Yadayin Avru Elamem Tes. Only 49 years went by, Avol Shmias Einu Neshemetes El B'Saif. When it comes to Shemitah, it's at the end. Ksiv Mikate Shevashanim. So that's the difference between Shemitah and Yovel. The Shemitah, it's Mishamet at the end. When it comes to Yovel, it's at the beginning. Okay. Learning is before actions. So to judgment. Yoim Hadin. One of the first questions that's asked. Rav Hamnuna Rav Hamnuna Ein Chilos Dina Shel Adam El Divrei Torah. The first questions on Yom Hadin, they want to ask questions. They want to know, did you learn Torah? Shnemer Poiter Mayim, one who releases water, Reishis Madoin, is the beginning of judgment, which water is referring to Torah, of course. Okay. Ukashem Shedinu Kaidam Maisa is just like a person, Yom Adin comes before Maisa, Kach Scharo Kaidam Maisa, so to your reward. Shenem Raviyitin Lehem Artzos Goyim, Ba'amal Umam Yirashu, and the toil of the nations you will inherit. Bavor Yishmeru, because it says Yishmeru Chuka V'Sairasav Yinsayro. So it mentions the Shmira and the Torah. It says Rashi, V'Amar Mar L'El Tishmrun Zumishna. Okay. Kol Shenu Gloy B'Mikabel B'Mishna, you don't learn Chumash, Mishnah, nothing, you're not part of a Yishuv. Rabbi Yochanan Apostle Eidos, you're also not able to testify. We don't trust you, says Rashi. Kivan Enim in a Yishuv, Ein makbid alatzmo. You don't care about things. Ein lo boishes panim. You have no embarrassment. Tanabam. Ha'oichel b'shuk. If you eat in the marketplace, doesn't mean you go to some fast food restaurant, but it means that you're just hanging out in the marketplace. Harized daim l'kelav. You're comparable to a dog. If you look in Taisus over here, it says Rabbeinu Tam Pirish, the very bottom, the oichel b'shuk hainish oichel suda de pas. The Ganai Yoser. It means like you're eating a huge meal with bread, so that's Ganai. But for you to have a candy bar, okay, Nishkeferch. The Yeshua Apostle Edus, some say if you're Oichel B'Shuk, you're also Apostle Edus. Amrav Idi Baravin. In fact, Halach is Ki Yesharmer, that you are Apostle Edus. Darish Bar Kapara, Ragzon, someone who is a Ragzon, who gets angry often, as we continue to Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, will also be Yado Ella Ragzanusa. The only thing that you have in your hands is your anger. You haven't really accomplished anything. It's just a silly thing to do. Well, Adam Toiv, for a good person, Matimanois Reprimasav, he'll be able to taste from the fruits of his actions. If you don't have any of these things, Dor Hanoha Mimenu, you should make a neder against them. Shnemer, but Moshev Leitzim, those who are scoffers, will Yashav, don't sit among them. Moshev Leitzim, that they're considered to be Moshev Leitzim, and because of that, you should have nothing to do with them. You should be Moider Hano against them. Hanuach Aisha Niknas, Hanuach Aisha Niknas, Hanuach Aisha Niknas. We completed, which I think is the longest parak in all of Shas, which is 40 blot. We're going to finally get to the second parak, Ha'ish Mekadesh Bo V'Shlucho, that a man who is Mekadesh a woman, he could do it himself, or he can do so with a shliach. Okay, we're going to stop here. Let's see if there's another question. Not on TV. Let's see if TA has a question. Adkan.